Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're doing something a little different. We're going to be reviewing the recent uh, Dungeons and Dragons movie, Honor Among Thieves.
That's very true. I have lots to say. I think it's a pretty sweet movie. Did you like it, Bob?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was everything I wanted, well, just about everything I wanted in a D&D movie,
Yeah,
and
honestly, same.
a lot of stuff I didn't know I wanted.
Yeah, so that's for our viewers at home. Spoilers ahead. I'm
Oh yeah.
assuming we're going to talk about the movie and the cast and the narrative, all that fun stuff. Ready to dive in?
Yeah, let's dive in. What before we start,
Okay.
or we're starting, but first things first, what were you expecting going in? Were you
Honestly,
optimistic?
no, not even a little bit. I'm a little bit jaded from Marvel right now. I'm a little bit jaded from DC, where it's just like, yeah, that's just a slew of mediocre, samey kind of feeling movies that I didn't have like a lot of love for. So I was kind of ready for Hasbro just to have dumped this IP somewhere, and some studio just threw out another CGI filled, big, expansive, quippy movie. And this has quips, this has little bits, it has some comedy bits to it. It's definitely a really funny movie, but it's definitely trying to be funny, whereas a lot of the Marvel movies I don't think are. So when I was going into this, I was expecting at its best it was going to be like a Marvel knockoff, and at its worst it was going to be a really campy. They like Sonic the Hedgehog 2 kind of like it's fine, it's cute, but it's not that good, right? Like it's not amazing. And I was thoroughly blown away because this is not that. This is genuinely incredible. What were your expectations going in?
I I'm not a superhero fan. I'm just really sick of all the movies. However, I just sick of them existing. I don't even watch them, but th
Sure.
I soak them in peripherally anyway because you can't
Yeah.
help it. They're
It's
everywhere.
osmosis. It's just in the
Yes.
atmosphere. When you know there's a new Ant-Man movie and you don't know give a shit about who Ant-Man is, but here we are.
Um, But I was expecting it to be, like you said, the fantasy equivalent of a Marvel movie, and that's kind of what it was for me. And I was okay with that because I don't mind the style of the Marvel movies. I just sick of freaking superheroes.
That's
I
fair.
I want something like that in my fantasy.
Mhm. I think the distinguishing difference to me is these characters all felt like their own unique character, where a lot of the time I feel like the leads in a lot of the Marvel movies, they have a lot of the same jokes, they have a lot of the same personality traits, they have a lot of the same quirks. Like the last like 5 or 6 main leads, like Paul Rudd versus Chris Hemsworth's Thor. That one's slightly more unique than the others, but like they all kind of are telling the same jokes and whatnot, and these characters don't feel super unique to me. But in this movie, I thought like every single character takes defining character traits and they just stick to their guns the whole time, right? They're always in character to the full T, entirely dedicated to the bit, and I really appreciate that about this. Like, okay, here let's quickly delve in. What was the plot for the viewers at home? What did we experience? What did you take away as the story from this movie?
Okay.
Hit me with it.
What's his name? How did I already forget the main character's name? Elgin or something?
Edwin.
Ed? It's not
Sorry,
Edwin.
Edgin. It's with a G.
Edgin. Yeah.
Edgin. It's with a G.
All right. So, uh, while back, his wife gets killed by a red mage's blade.
Mhm.
He was part of the Harpers. They were some group, and he goes from he quits the Harpers because he's sad about his wife, and he starts a life of thievery
Mhm.
with his barbarian friend. And
Holga. Yes.
what? Oh yeah, all right. I thought you said hold up. All right.
Oh no, Holga.
Yes,
Yeah, it's
Holga.
the character's
Right.
name.
And then present day, they're in prison for some of their crimes or whatever, and then they escape. Then where does it go from there? And then yeah, they're one of their companions of old. Uh, Forgot his name. Hugh Grant,
Yes, Hugh Grant's Forge Fitzwilliam.
Forge Fitzwilliam. Yes, he is
Which let me
running
just
the
say,
show now.
God, he's so good in this movie.
We'll get to Hugh Grant. Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
he's
see.
running the show.
Uh,
He's now a
He's
Lord
running
of
the show. He's now
Neverwinter
the
or
Lord
something.
of the realm or whatever, and
Mhm.
and he has been raising Edgin's daughter, who has come to believe that Dad just ran out on her,
Mhm.
and so Ford's up to no good. He's or Forge, not Ford.
Mhm.
Forge is up to no good. He is teamed up with the creepy red mage woman.
Sophina, who definitely wasn't a red mage the moment you saw her in that tavern. Like, wasn't even remotely a villain whenever you see this black cloaked figure with a very clear head covering just so it doesn't show that she's bald and got the sigils or anything. Nah, she's fine.
Yeah. And they're plotting to they're planning to do this ritual that's gonna kill everybody and turn them into zombies or something. And yada yada yada. They gotta go save the day.
Yeah, exactly. They go on a bunch of quests, literally a bunch of quests, and half of the main plot items kind of get thrown out the window after they're done with them, which I loved. Where it's just like, oh, we're done with the Helm of Awakening, great. It just doesn't exist anymore. We don't care about it anymore. Um, there's a lot of great moments like that in the movie where I'm like, yeah, this is definitely just Dungeons and Dragons. So yeah, that's basically it. It's they team up with Justice Smith's Simon the sorcerer, who just doesn't have any idea what he's doing. He's like
Except
supposed to
that
be incredibly competent wild magic, and he's got no charisma, and it's incredibly good. God, he plays the character so well. Um, they meet up with so we have Michelle Rodriguez as Holga Kilgore. She's the barbarian who, if viewers at home, if you ever want to know how to play a low int character right, this character is how you play a low int character right. She's incredible at it. And then Doric the druid, who's like in this movie because she's a druid and they needed a druid, and that's why she's in this movie. And I frankly was like, yeah, I know a ton of characters that are just here because they're want to play at the table, and I can put specifically Doric the druid onto so many faces that I played with before as like, this is exactly what they're bringing to the table. Is they don't like people and they're kind of an outsider and they're just looking to protect their city or their people or their ex, and then they go along on this quest that has nothing really to do with what's going on, just to be a part of the adventuring group. And that was definitely the vibe I got from her. But oh yeah.
uh, yeah, I was fine with that.
Fair.
This is a formation of a party that doesn't involve just randomly meeting in a tavern.
That's true. It genuinely does feel pretty organic. Like the first party, the one that had Forge as like a member of it, because originally it was Edgin, Holga, Forge, Simon, and their daughter, right? Those five are like running around, band of thieves, and then they take the quest from Sophina, break into a fortress they're not supposed to break into. Sophina gets them all caught with a time stop and bails with Forge, stealing all the money for themselves. That's why they're in prison, all that fun stuff, right? But like,
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that. That's right.
yeah,
Yeah. Right,
this
yeah.
movie's got it's a 2.5 hour movie. Like there's a lot of things happening in this, but that was very much like we all just kind of cobble together, it's fine or whatever. But then the second time around, every character kind of feels like there's an organic introduction because they know somebody. So like even whenever they meet the Zenek Yendar, the superhero paladin guy, it very much is like, oh yeah, we all know who Zenek is, don't you? And he's like, nah, he's a red wizard, not about it. It's a lot of great bits for it.
Sorry.
You're good.
Well, all right. What else?
Of the cast,
I got
any
what? All right.
standouts to you? Do you have any like favorite characters, favorite moments from the film?
Ooh, I hate to pick the main character as my favorite, but he was
Megan's pretty great.
charming. Yeah. Although, as a bard, I didn't really find he did a whole lot of bard things. I mean, not like a D&D bard. As a bard, like
Correct.
as a useless member of the party, like the bard stereotype. Sure, sang a nice song. I like that one song they sang together, and
It's cute.
but yeah, I guess like I guess you could say that he did bardic inspiration at some point or something, but didn't cast any spells. Didn't I mean he hit somebody with his lute, I guess, but that's
Twice. And it's great each
twice.
time.
Yeah, but yeah, no, like bards always get the reputation of being useless,
Mhm.
but this is Hasbro. This is a they don't want to promote that stereotype. They want people to play bards. This is a and bards are actually really good.
Edgin proves his usefulness in that he's the planner and he comes up with some genuinely stupidly great ideas that have no
I
business
do
working
like
but do.
I do like that they actually pointed out what do you contribute to this?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm the planner. But yeah. So
You
at
make
least it
plans
was
that fail
self-aware.
is one of my
Yeah.
favorite dork quotes. I also love there's a great scene where their plan A failed. So they're like, all right, we're on to plan B, and plan B fails. Okay, so we're on to plan C, which is just back to, which means you're gonna tune
Plan
to the
A.
helm again. And they go, isn't that just plan A? And he's like, nah, plan A's got a stink on it. It's a great bit.
Yeah.
He's genuinely really witty in this movie in a way that it feels like just oozing charisma. And I like Hugh Grant feels the exact same way to me. Oh my god. Every time he was on screen, whenever he's like talking to the rich lords of Waterdeeps and stuff that he's around, he'd be like, and a chance to get you rich bastards to profit off them. And I'm like, oh, eat it up. I love it so much.
Yeah.
It's
He
so
was
corny and hammy.
I said we're gonna get to Hugh Grant, but all times he was on screen except one. There was this before the movie started, they had the cast there saying, "Oh, thank you for coming to watch our movie in a theater," and blah blah blah. And you could see like Hugh Grant over on
Yeah.
the side, listlessly staring off into the distance. I was the biggest star in the world 10 years ago or whatever. And like now I'm doing this nerd shit. But no, he brought his A game and he was a joy to watch.
Yeah. I genuinely every single time I see him, oh god, he's so good. There's lots of moments where you're like, does he actually love Kira as like a father? Is he making this connection? And then he pulls a dagger on her at the end of the movie because he's still a scoundrel. And you're just like, yup, oh god, you're so good at this. Just delightful, delightful. What did you think about Zenek Yundar and his whole subplot in the Underdark, which was pointless? Pretty sure it ended up being pointless, but it was fun.
I remember they were there. I don't remember what the actual subplot was, though.
Sure. So Yannick,
my memory.
Okay, so the party's got a bunch of side quests to do. So the first side quest they have to do once they figure out they need to get Kira from Forge, because that's like the end goal of the cast is to save Kira, and then tertiarily they end up saving the world. They need to break into a castle, and break in the castle they get a druid. So they go get a druid to go spy on people as a wild shape, sneaking in and stuff. Which also notably, calling it wild shape, like that's a thing that a person is, I thought was weird, but I got used to it, so it was fine. Like wild shape is the ability. It's like
I thought well, when they said it, I thought they were talking about the ability. I didn't think they were talking about a person.
I think they use the term a wild shape, and I'm like,
all right, when the evil wizard woman said, yeah, there's a wild shape here.
Yeah, but
she was generally terrifying.
She was. They did a really great job with this capital E evil villain. There is no sympathy. This is the character Sophina wants to bring back a lich whose whole objective is to kill everyone. And there's no middle ground. There's no morality of interest here. This is just like a capital E evil. All life is worthless. I'm going to kill you all. That's my whole character. And I love that kind of just like, it's stupid. It's silly. We have no remorse for beating the crap out of her. It's great. I love it. So they go get a druid. Yeah. They send the druid in, and then they come back and they're like, okay, there's this big impervious seal we have to break into next. So we have to go get a hat, and they go to the Helm of Awakening, I think. Not Helm of Awakening, Helm of something or other. They do a bunch of bits with it with Michelle Rodriguez's character Holga because she's stupid, and so she calls it like the Helm of a bunch of different misnomers. It's funny. In any case, they have to go get this hat, and to get the hat, they have to go figure out where it is. To go figure out what it is, they have to have an amazing scene, Bob. And I wanted to hear your thoughts on the Speak with Dead scene, which is one of my favorite in the whole movie. It is so D&D.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's what it was. Silly and one of those things that and funny. They have the little back and forth. You have, what is it, 4 questions, 3 questions?
5 questions.
5 questions, right?
Left? Yes.
And that's the answer to a question. Oh crap! Now
Does
we
that
got
count?
3 left.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that was perfect because it was funny for a bit, but they didn't drag it on too long.
The pacing of this movie generally was like, you keep moving. They're not really sitting anywhere too much, except for the one subplot that I really am like, wow, this is definitely just in here because Holga needs to be a little bit more of a character than she is. But we'll get to that in a second. So yeah, they do this Speak with Dead scene, which I truly love. And like as a D&D nerd, while most of this is not even remotely D&D, like while most of this movie, like bards don't cast spells, the druid doesn't cast spells. The only person with any kind of magic is like a sorcerer who's like hinted at that he can do healing magic and stuff too. But like they kind of just shoo all that out, and I'm here for that. I don't need.
Like you said, it's 2.5 hour movie already. They couldn't cram anything else in.
Listen, I agree. I'm saying that the movie is better because it doesn't necessarily abide by all the rules of D&D. The ones
Oh,
that
it
it
certainly
chooses
does
to
not.
abide to by, though, I think are really fun choices. Like Speak with Dead doesn't need to have the weird 5-question thing. I don't even remember Speak with Dead in the actual game is 5 specific questions, maybe 3 or something. But like, regardless, that weird fun rule barrier is very D&D, and they play with it a lot and really enjoy it. And even if it's not specifically rules as like the actual rules it's written, it's pretty excellent. And like there's a big pivotal moment where Sofina's animated a big statue that's attacking the party, and they break her concentration, and it's a really cute nod to be like, yeah, look how cinematic this is, how we can make and play with the base mechanics of the game a little bit to have fun with.
I really appreciated that one. That was
Yeah,
the
me
one
too.
that stood out to me as like, all right, I as a D&D player recognize what just happened there
Mhm.
as a game mechanic. And there's a lot of game mechanic in this movie,
Mhm.
but a lot of it like kind of feels clunky. Like, you know, I don't know. They every time they say the name of a spell, I like a little bit taken out of the fantasy. But that one though, where she just slingshots a rock into the woman's head
Yep.
and the spell breaks, like that's all right. She broke concentration. But if I wasn't a D&D player, I'd still know what happened there.
Yeah, you get it. Like she
Yeah.
loses focus, basically, right?
Mm.
That was, I think that's like the with this movie is at its best is whenever it's not super ham-fisted and like look at the mimic. That's like the most egregious example to me is like well, we have to put a mimic in this movie, so I guess we're putting it in the maze, which is kind of just here because it has to be.
See,
Because we
you
need
brought that up once before, and I that one doesn't bother me because I thought
that's fair.
that's what a mimic is. That's they're in this maze. There's treasure chest there, because why not give them a chance? Give them a weapon. They're gonna go fight the monsters or whatever. It's all gladiatorial fun, but sometimes that one of those chests is gonna be a mimic, and that's also fun to watch for an audience that wants to see people getting destroyed. Uh,
Because the audience has such a great view from what's happening in the arena seats to what's happening inside a stone maze.
hmm, yeah, they didn't think that one through too well.
There's a
But
lot that this movie doesn't think through too well, and that's I think a lot to its credit. I think that's good for the movie because it's just supposed to be a fun popcorn movie that you can't really
oh
engage
yeah,
with too much, or you're gonna have like, oh, this doesn't make any sense.
that's another time Hasbro or Wizards of the Coast could have stepped up because in our D&D culture, for whatever reason, a mimic is always a treasure chest.
That's true.
But a mimic can be anything. It could
So
be a coat rack. It could be
this is
a chair.
this is a lot of people's first time seeing a lot of the D&D IP stuff here, right? This is
Yeah.
for a larger audience because like this movie's been selling out tickets around where I'm at consistently and it's weeks past its air date, right? Like it's doing really well. So this is going to be the first time a lot of people are meeting these creatures for the first time even, right? Like people that aren't nerds don't necessarily know what a mimic is, Bob, right? So seeing it in its most iconic form, I get that makes sense to me.
That's fine.
But
Wow.
so
What were we talking about?
we were talking about the subplot, then we got very distracted. So they finish talking to the dead people. They learn where this helm is. That's super important. So they know the guy that's supposed to have it is Zenek Yendar, which is this paladin superhero, basically. That's the
Hmm.
ultimate good guy going around saving lives and all that crap. So they go and meet him, and he leads them to the Underdark to go get the hat so they can break into the vault, which is very convoluted, but it's that's D&D, right? Is you find a point that takes you to 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 a point because your DM had some cool ideas that they want to try out, right? They delve into the Underdark. They have a cute intellective hour scene. There's a cute scene with the bridge that's got the gnomish trap that Simon steps on and it collapses. Super funny. I loved that when they get the portal staff, which is
Yeah, I
just like,
remember
oh
that.
yeah, the magic item solves this problem. That was great. So they go across, they find this hat, they find the fat dragon, which rolls at them, which is an incredible scene.
Correct.
Did you have
Well,
strong
wait, you
feelings
just
about the fat dragon?
but first you skipped over the portal staff. I think they did a lot of cool special
Oh,
effects with that. Like that was
agreed.
really fun to watch.
I think the best like party composition doing their thing together scene is the one where they're trying to get the portrait into the treasure to sneak it into the vault. That scene where they've got the druid's doing her nature thing with the sap, and she's the one that actually goes in and wild shapes out. Right? They got Edgin is on the ground and sticks it to the base there for the first time, and got Simon manning the staff and Holga manning Simon as he's like trying to pull him out from them fumbling around the base. Like it's a really cute heist moment, and they do a lot of fun stuff with the portal staff beyond that. Right? Like that is
Yeah.
really cool, very much like, oh, we have this cool item, let's make this thing come together. And watching that succeed, I think, is really fun too.
I mean, like when it's first introduced, oh crap, we collapsed the bridge. Oh, look, a convenient way to solve this immediate problem. But later they use it really cleverly.
In a bunch of different ways.
Yeah.
So yeah, they go get
kind
the hat, Bob. That whole time where then the paladin kills all the assassins and stuff like that. Did you have any strong feelings about that whole journey? Because I know a lot of people, the general discourse is, oh, this is just a super DM PC going around showing off his stuff and whatever. This is kind of dumb, is the gist that I got a lot of people felt about it. I thought it was super fun.
I mean, it's been fun. That's what I wanted. That's, I had the popcorn. That's what I came for.
That's true.
But wait a second. We also skipped over the fat dragon.
We did skip over the fat. Well, we're in the fat dragon at the moment. We're in the thick of it, right?
It's had a very like Balrog kind of feel.
And then you see how fat it is.
Why? Why? I mean, that it's a Dungeons and Dragons movie. Okay, there should be a dragon. Why is it morbidly obese?
Because it's funny.
Yeah, I guess it's funny.
There's a moment that lives in my head. It's whenever I think it's Thundershot or something, but he's rolling at them because he trips, and the music is still playing the super intense like like this is in great peril, and you just see this corgi pudgy dragon just floundering around rolling at them. I think it's the funniest thing. Oh, I love it so much. It's great. So unbelievably corny. I adore it. And I love that he can't like breathe fire because he's too fat, right? Like, you know how the pugs, they get like all congested in here and he's like hacking and coughing at them because he can't get the flame to start. I thought that was a really cute touch. Oh, so good. So good.
Yeah.
I think
we are still talking and laughing about it. So yeah, it worked.
Yeah, agreed. The whole of being in the Underdark, I definitely felt was like, we should have had any other character get to do anything else at any point. Specifically the druid, like Dork is basically just present. And there were a lot of problems that she could have contributed to by becoming anything else. And they're like,
especially since she can wild shape at will, like infinite amount of times into anything.
Like maybe give the let your leader Zedek kill the evil head assassin, and maybe the rest of the team gets some little fodder to mess around with. Just something to do. No, that he just gets to kill all of them, which is a little bit like because like there's a lot of characters in that scene, in that entire arc, that just don't do anything. It's like, why are they here? That's a nitpick, and it's I think a reasonable one. It's kind of annoying that occurs. There are lots of moments in the movie where there are a lot of clear explanations. So like whenever Dork is escaping as the wild shape, right? A lot of people are like, well, why didn't she just turn into a fly and fly away? That's so much easier. And there's a good reason for this not happening, and it's because it's more interesting if she doesn't. It's more fun to watch her turn into a rat, and then turn into a deer, and then turn into a bird, and then turn into a cat, and then turn into a deer again, and then turn into a weird bird thing, which I don't even know what those are. I think they're not rocks. They're like, do you know what those bird things were?
Chocobos? I don't know.
Yeah, something like that is what they looked like. I loved them though. I'm glad they were in the movie. There were a lot of weird things in here.
That escape scene just felt like the animators showing off, and I'm okay with that.
Agreed.
I mean, that is one of those things. It was well done, so it worked. Mm-hmm. It could have very easily been garbage.
Yes. I have a question about something that I've heard people call garbage that I deeply adore. What did you think about, I'm pretty sure they actually made them, the puppet-like costumes and stuff they did for like the Aarakocra and for the Dragonborn and for the Tabaxi, right? The really clearly not CGI like Dark Crystal outfits that they had these characters wearing. What were your thoughts? So I loved them.
That didn't bother me. I wouldn't say I loved them, but I wasn't offended by them. I thought they did the job well enough. That's yeah. I was not. It's not one of those things that took me out of the fantasy. I thought, oh, neat, they put some non-humanoid races in there, and I appreciated that.
That's fair. My buddy Garrett, whenever the Tabaxi come on scene for whenever they're fishing the baby cat out of the fish, do you remember that when Zedek goes into the fish and pulls it out? He's like, "What am I looking at?" And I was like, "It's great. What are you talking about? It's like Dark Crystal. Come on!" I love that. That maybe it was just me, but I deeply loved the physical prop stuff that was done in this movie, and I really hope they lean into it more and don't go all CG. Because whenever you don't go all CG, things look more tangible. I like that. Oh, that was good stuff, Bob. I really liked the movie. So how about the climax? We get to the end. There are some really dumb things that happen, like the slowest moving giant death spell of human history, where you can casually meander out of the theater to avoid it. That was a big moment, and I was like, huh, that's really stupid.
Well, I mean,
Like,
what else could I don't know? I'd say what else could they have done? But you know, you're looking at an entirely different ending if
sure.
it didn't play out exactly like that,
Yeah.
because the way the hero saves the day involved everyone just strolling outside.
Yeah, it's like they did the cute detail where the gold is coming out of Forge's balloon's mouth. That's really cute, and it's
Yeah, that
pouring
was
over the
nice.
city. But like, if Sofina's really angry that people just meandered away from her beckoning death and didn't think they were gonna just do that anyway, like it's a giant flowing cloud of
To
black
her
tendrils and
credit,
red smoke, and she's like, "People are running. What? I am foiled."
to her credit, people did need to be motivated by money
That's true.
to avoid the tendrils of darkness coming toward them.
One thing I really love about this movie is the non-main cast are 100% NPCs, like to the T. Whenever Simon's doing his little magic show and he's like, "Oi, he's nicking our coins or whatever," it's just like, get him. And there's no more character than that. It's just 100%. He's there to say that line and attack Simon, and it's great. I'm 100% here for it.
I do love that he's supposed to be this little scrub of a sorcerer and not, not very great, but he just casually casts time stop to get away, a ninth level spell.
He reversed gravity to get away, Bob. Thank
Oh,
you very
reverse
much. He
gravity, not time
countered
stop.
the time stop.
Who cast the time stop?
Sofina does twice,
Oh, right.
which I think that
Wow.
effect looked great. The
Yeah,
time stop effect looked really good, and it like you get the impression that it's really powerful in that moment. But if you use that in D&D and just did that, I'd be like, wow, that's kind of underwhelming. You just kind of walked away, and you could have just dimension doored, right? Like, like you didn't need to do that.
all right, but still, uh, my argument stands.
Mhm.
Reverse gravity is seventh level spell.
Oh yeah,
That's still pretty freaking high.
listen, it's supposed to be wild magic, but that's not like they play really fast and loose with that, which I'm again big fan of. Love that decision. I love the decision that Simon just like sometimes does absurdly powerful things. I think it's really fun. I actually would love to see a little bit more of it, but he does enough with the staff and stuff that is fun. I love the mage duel at the end with Sofina and Simon. But I also really love, and I want everyone here to go watch our Watery Sphere video again, and then go watch this movie, and then realize just how incredible Watery Sphere is. Because Sofina sticks Edgin and Holga in it, and just rolls them away, and it's incredible. It's hilarious. I loved it so much. It looks so out of place to see this evil wizard that's like throwing lightning and blood misting around. He's got a big evil necromancy hand, just be like, "Bubble, go!" It's really funny to me. I loved that. Oh god, it's so good.
Ah, I'm gonna take a look at my notes.
Notes. What you got?
Now, just thinking. All right, I don't know how much more you had to say, but there
I
were a
can talk about
couple
this for
things I want.
hours.
Yeah, really. Because this is not the first Dungeons and Dragons movie we've had. Um, there was one in 2000
Mhm.
that was so bad that I didn't realize it was the first of a trilogy.
There was more of
There were two more.
them. I didn't know there
One
were
in
more either.
no,
I
one was
learned
in
that right now.
2005. One was in 2012. I don't think I mean they weren't direct sequels. They didn't have the same cast members or characters, but yeah, they were the franchise. There were two more Dungeons and Dragons movies, which I don't think anybody knew about. I learned this while doing research for this video.
I will say
But
the first movie gives us one of the greatest hammy acting lines ever. It's the villain puts his hands up like this and goes,
Jeremy
"Let
Irons, yeah.
blood rain from the sky," and it's incredibly corny. It's so good. I
Well,
would recommend
Jeremy
watching that
Irons
clip.
was the only, he's the only actor that gave a crap.
Yeah.
And he came, he's a professional. He came to earn his check,
He
and
did.
he did a good job.
He's genuinely really fun to watch if you accept the rest of the movie's just utter trash.
So yeah, what? So this is the first good D&D movie. All I really wanted from this was I wanted this to feel like, like my favorite almost D&D movie before this was Willow.
Mhm.
And I thought Willow, yeah, watching that, I always thought this is a D&D adventure. We've got specific party members. They're going on a quest, and it felt very D&D to me. And just like this movie, that was charming. It was funny,
Mhm.
and it moved along. I don't know. I liked Willow. It's I mean, and that was, what, 1980? No, not 90 something.
88, according to
88.
Wikipedia.
Okay.
Because I have not seen this film. I had to Google it.
You
Or he's
haven't
older
seen
than I
Willow.
am.
Oh, you haven't seen anything.
That's true.
Um, but yeah, so 1988, 2000 Dungeons and Dragons had no excuse.
Yeah, none
You know,
whatsoever. That movie is atrocious for no good reason. There's a lot of moments where like the whole part of D&D is be doing the team up thing, and this movie does a lot of that pretty well. Most of the scenes where they're all together are really genuinely great, and everyone gets moments to do their cool thing, and they're doing it collectively. That's great. A large part of the D&D one, or the first D&D movie's problem, is the hero does everything alone. Where he goes, I have to be the only one that goes in this temple by myself for no particularly good reason. And there's like the wizard woman does magic like once. It's corny and bad.
I
It's
don't know.
not doing the D&D thing at all, actually.
The dwarf was just expensive to watch.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're
It's
not
it's
we're not
bad.
reviewing that movie. Maybe we should review that movie later on, though.
We could. It's really
Yeah.
terrible. A lot of people have been on the internet recently, and that's the only thing I know about it are things I've gained through watching other people review that movie. So for that's a word.
Ah, but back to the movie at hand. We got some what would oh, you know what? I was gonna say we had like some iconic D&D monsters. We already talked about the mimic. We have kind of had the owl bear in the wild shape form. It was neat to see that. He said, "What is that?" That's an owl bear.
It's cute.
That's guess that's for the audience.
Yes.
Um, Displacer beasts were neat.
Those were my favorite. I
Yeah.
loved the Displacer Beast effect was really cool, and it was really corny to have like Michelle Rodriguez run through and yoink, or Michelle Rodriguez run in and yoink and get out through a Displacer Beast, and like the illusion magic didn't always look great, but I loved like the tendrily flickery effect and them cornering things. Oh, I thought it was really cool.
The intellect of ours, they looked as stupid as they do in the book.
So
It's
good. They're just bloody brains with four
brains
legs.
with
They're
feet.
great.
Yeah.
I don't know how they
Uh,
eat anything. They're just
nope.
brains.
They don't.
Oh,
They devour intellect.
yes. There's that great joke where they're like, careful, they hunt prey with high intelligence, and then they all pass, and he's like, well, that's a little bit hurtful. That's a great bit.
That was really good. They had the all right. Let me ask you this: they had the gelatinous cube.
Yeah.
I don't understand what Doric did there to save the day.
So, like, so the idea is it
Hmm.
formed around them, right? So if she turns into a snake, it's going to take a little bit for its
Ah,
flesh
all
to
right, all
number
right.
form, and she stuck her finger out so she could leave out that hole, right? That way she can slip out of it as a snake from her form being smaller and then pull them out,
Excuse
which
me.
is not even remotely how gelatinous cubes like rules as written work. And again, that's a good thing because this is way more interesting and way more fun to watch to have that kind of effect occur. And I would highly recommend taking little hints of this and putting it into your own Dungeons and Dragons game whenever people come up with dumb ideas because they're great and they're fun. And going into a gelatinous cube to go under a floor is a really fun, stupid idea that should have killed everyone, but ended up just progressing the plot to a really fun way.
All right, so we had mimic, displacer beast, gelatinous cube, intellect
Rust
of ours.
monsters.
I don't remember any wrist monsters.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're
wait, yeah.
they're really small cameo whenever they're going to get beheaded, which is another scene I deeply, deeply love. The rust monsters are fighting over like a little coin up on a rafter. It's a really cute little like, oh, look at the weird things that exist in this world. Plus, again, the weird
Oh,
chocobo
yeah.
things that definitely exist. I've seen those images in older edition stat blogs. I just could not tell you what they are for the life of me.
I don't know. It's nice they put previous edition
Yeah.
stuff in there.
We get to see a
Yeah.
really epic black dragon for a flashback scene for a battle that doesn't matter. It's really great, where this huge evil black dragon just spitting this. It's in all the trailers. It's just spitting like this big toxic black filth that's messing some people up. That's pretty great. The it looks so good. It looks so good.
So they gave us a lot of stuff, but they didn't
Yes.
give us everything. Notice the party does not have a cleric.
There's a dwarf cleric we get briefly in the maze we see for a second.
Was he a cleric? I thought it was just
I'd
a dwarf.
assume.
Yeah.
Like, so the group is a bard that does no magic, is a druid that can only wild shape. It's a barbarian that, I mean, like, she rages, but is not like a timer or anything. She's like just a human person that's punching things. She could just be a fighter. That's like the same thing, right? She's just an angry fighter. Which I guess, I mean, like, if you think about what a barbarian is, that's par for the course.
Yeah.
And Simon's a sorcerer, and then like Zenek is a paladin, right? That again, not really magical paladin though. I think I would have liked if the characters that could cast spells just like, maybe they do just a little, like let Zenek do a lay on hands, or let the dork do anything beyond wild shaping, like just anything. Any amount of magic would really appreciate it.
Yes, because druid magic is like a whole different kind of thing, and could look really cool. She could do something with plants or something, or
yeah.
And Edgin, he could have give us a prestidigitation.
Yeah,
Anything.
I really think that is the one big D&D nerd like lore thing that I'm annoyed by, and it's a minor annoyance, but the fact that Edgin is literally just a man with a lute and nothing else. It's like, it's funny a lot of the time. I love whenever there's a great line whenever Holga's beating up a whole bunch of people but as they're getting beheaded, and he's like very slowly trying to whittle his arm cuffs off, or his tied hands up, and he just goes, funny. "Oh, we got him now!" And she's just like 1v8ing all of these people. It's a really great bit. But like, come on, man, do anything magical. Whenever he was doing they have Simon project an image of him doing a loop performance that then goes horribly wrong whenever he gets his concentration broken because he gets his foot stuck on which is such a stupid way for that to go south. But like, yeah, he gets stuck on a loose rock or whatever, gets his foot stuck, so the illusion falls apart. That should have been Edgin. Like, there should have been Edgin doing something there magically to be the distraction to let them in, even if it's like enthralled, right? Like, let him go up in front of a crowd and just be magmatic. That would be, I think, pretty great. But they don't. They let him be a guy with a lute. And listen, I think he's great as a guy with a lute, but he's definitely not a bard in my heart.
And what else? I noticed they didn't have as many. I mean, you mentioned the dwarf. There was a dwarf on the screen for like 5 seconds.
Yeah, he gets eaten by Displace Beast.
not no dwarf in the party. No halflings. There
were halflings. They're awful.
There was a halfling. Yes, that was it Holga? What's her
Holga's
name?
ex-husband. Yeah.
Right. That. I said good things about the special effects before.
That was
this
bad.
This was not one of them. Yeah.
No, it was awful to watch the whole time. And like, I can't believe they got famous actor Bradley Cooper to come in and just, they didn't change any of his proportions. They just changed some weird camera angles, and he just looks like wrong, right? It's like a toddler with the wrong body proportions. So like with the Hobbits and Lord of the Rings, they are differently shaped and sized to some degree to address how short they are, right? Like, they look slightly different, and they have different like clothes, and they have higher waisted stuff to make them look different. Here they're just like, nah, we'll do it in post, shrink them down, make the handshake look really uncanny, make the whole teeth, like, everything's too big for him. Ugh. It looked so bad.
It was just like, you could tell that he was instructed to move as little as possible because everything would fall apart if he twitched a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, that was, wow, what a wasted resource.
What really gets me is at the end of the movie, they have a halfling put the medal on Holga, and it looks just as bad because like there's this weird jarring like hole in the middle of the screen where there's like the very clearly no one can stand in this box because that's the box that the halfling's in that they're resizing. And then there's like, she puts the necklace on her and she gets like a little lip bite. It's a little joke, right? But like, it looks really, really bad. They just get actual short actors. Like, they exist. Like there's a whole slew of ways you could do this better, right?
You pay this money for Bradley Cooper and then instruct him, don't act.
Yeah. Oh, God, that scene is just a little bit too long for me. I think if it was slightly shorter, it would be the right length, as being a little like, Holga commiseration, her life's being a mess and all that. We had a little bit of backstory for her. Dragon on a little bit long, but I think it might have been just like how bad the CG looked that I was like, wow, this is awful. Please let me out.
um, but yeah, I mean, I guess you don't want to throw a halfling and a dwarf, and we're not making Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and I guess we had a orc, like a
It
evil
was
orc in the cell.
he was a hobgoblin. Thank you,
Oh,
Bob.
was he? Oh,
Yeah,
all
I think
right.
so.
So we had no orcs
We had no
or
orcs.
half orcs.
No.
Could have
I
used a
think
half orc in there, like a good
I
one,
agree.
part of the party.
Yeah. I think Holga could have been a half orc and no one would have batted an eye. I think she could have been a Goliath and no one would have batted an eye. Like I think those both would work really well for that. Give us a little bit better character diversity, but like my personal biggest grievance and the thing that I don't think I'll ever be able to forgive this movie for, despite the fact that I love it. I've seen it 3 times now. Like I really do. I can't recommend this movie enough. It's really fun. But the fact that the only tiefling in the group is pale, pasty human white is offensive to me. Tieflings have come to life on the internet as these pastel blues, deep purples, fiery reds. They are every color but boring people, and it is so sad to me that you have this opportunity to just do basic like face makeup, right? Give us some face paint. It isn't that costly. And like it might be annoying for her to sit in a chair for 45 minutes, but she already has to deal with the horns, right? Like this is what acting is. Give
Yeah.
us a little bit of that. It doesn't just like, even if it's just like a little bit more tinted or something, she does nothing about her screams tiefling to me. She's just like a human with horns and a tail that gets brought up once. Dork has a lot of problems in this movie. Most of them are she doesn't really feel like she belongs in the movie to me, but that's okay. She's still a fun element at least. The wild shape stuff is all great.
Yeah. Um, and I guess you can't like we said before, it's 2.5 hour movie. You can't
Mhm.
shove everything in there. But they mentioned a beholder, but we didn't get to see a beholder. That
They
would
go for it.
I mean that's maybe we could see one in the next movie.
Yeah, I really want the next. So okay, sequel time. Let's talk about what a proposed
Mm.
sequel for this should be. I have my opinions. Bob, what would you want out of a sequel for this movie?
I've given that some thought. I'm not sure. Do I want the same party or a different party? I All right. We've had the villain here with the red mage, and then Hugh Grant.
Mhm.
Yeah. Hugh Grant's not dead at the end, so I
No, he's
guess
in
he
jail.
could come back. Yeah. So, man, I don't know. That could
What
go
I
either
deep
way.
what I deeply, 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 deeply want. I want these characters to show up in the next movie as cameos. They have like a little brief touch on with these people. Maybe we have an intro scene with them and one of them dies horribly, right? And then I want to jump to a new group with new adventurers with completely new cast. I want completely different monsters, different adventure. Give me a beholder supervillain. I want D&D is huge. This
Mm.
expanse in IP has so many dumb things, so many we've touched on like 8 races, which is for people that don't play D&D a ton, right? Like 8 different species of people. Like Star Trek's Enterprise, like they're the command like places rarely have more than 4 or 5 species in total. And like D&D's got 20, 30, just robust amounts. And then we have the like, we haven't touched on, there are dwarves, yes, but there's also Drogar, and they have a really interesting like backstory, and the giants of the D&D world have a really interesting lore and world connotations, stuff like that. And there's a whole diversity of them that we could explore. I want to see new characters that we learn about, that we fall in love with again, that we go through different backstories, different incarnations. I want them to take this shell and apply it to new characters with new directives and more exploration and more different fun adventures. I'd be happy if these showed up as again cameos, but I don't think we need. I think I'm good. Egan has a pretty satisfying conclusion, right? Like I don't think we need to see
No,
Simon's sure of himself now. We don't need to see him and Doric's relationship blossom, right? We're good. Like we don't need
I
that.
think I agree with you because I don't want it to be an entirely separate world. So I'm fine with that. Yeah, a new party, but yeah, there are cameos. We'll see. Um, Ed gonna be just playing his lute at a bar somewhere.
Yeah. Maybe he says something quipping to the new adventures as they're passing through, right? Maybe they seek out Xenix's aid and they can't find him, and then they have to deal with some other different paladin that was trying to be Xenix and isn't anymore, right? We can have nods and calls to this movie. We can still be like, hey, look, remember that thing? And people can really enjoy that. But I think it'll be really great if we don't try and further develop these already characters that they've done their arc. They have very cleanly gotten from point A to point B. We established what they were missing. We established that they got a clean conclusion to it, except for Doric. She just kind of is there. But that's okay. She hates humans. Now she hates humans less, I guess, because she's dating a half one, I guess. I don't know. She's really flimsy.
Begrudgingly.
Yeah, like, which honestly, that is their dynamic is very cute. I absolutely love the line where he's like, "You said I made you sad, not for anything I did, but for who I was." It's one of my favorite lines in the movie. Yeah, that's what I want out of a sequel, at least. I want to see a beholder, and I want to see
Yeah.
a dragon villain, ideally. We had the dragon, like, cameo boss, but I want like a classic evil dragon. It'd be cool if like maybe Xanathar is a sub character, like you get the Crime Zentarum stuff going on. Maybe they're pretty popular, and getting him as a sub villain would be cool. But like a big angry red dragon, or we just did red, maybe white. Let's go up and do like Rime of the Frost Maiden stuff or something. I think that'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah. Well, if an evil dragon's in the movie, he's gonna have to be the villain,
I think so.
the big one. If a beholder's in the movie, that's gonna have to be the big villain.
Oh, you think so? You think they can't share screen time?
I mean, I don't know that we need. I mean, we can have more than one sequel.
That's true.
Yeah.
This movie's gonna make enough money. They're making another one. Like that's not a question. There will be more of this. I just really don't want it to be bad, and I'm really worried that it's going to be bad. I'm really worried that it's going to be what I thought it was the first time, which is just like a cheap cash grab that's retelling a bunch of the same jokes and bad CGI and rush development. I don't want that.
No, I don't think it's going to be that. Of course, I'm once again irresponsibly optimistic,
Fair.
as I was for this movie. But I believe that they knew what they were doing.
I think they did too.
They knew what to watch out for. They knew what not to do,
Mm-hmm.
and they nailed it. And I think they'll take the lessons that they clearly already learned and apply them again.
Agreed. If they can give us something that's like 80% as good as this, I think I'll be really happy.
I think they will. You could the whole thing. You could tell they were having fun. Like
Oh
even
yeah.
like with the credits, the little animation things in the
Mm-hmm.
credits. That just reeks of. I know we nailed this. We had fun. The audience is having fun. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's important. That's what 2000 Dungeons and Dragons did not give us was
No,
fun.
they that movie hated Dungeons and Dragons as an IP and wanted to be a very different thing. And this movie, it's like it's clear like Chris Pine even he's on record. He said I think that he didn't want to do this role, and I don't blame him because like the 2000s movie was really bad, and there are a lot of actors like to steer away from this kind of stuff because it tends to be huge sinks for their time and typecasts you all that kind of stuff, right? But he walked in at his nephews playing and they were just having the time of their lives, and he's like, oh, okay, could be pretty cool. People seem to really love this, and he's genuinely great in this. I think that it's clear that there was a lot of passion behind the producers. Every little nod to a stupid thing is the exact perfect right of stupid, right? They take it exactly seriously enough that they like it's clearly like they respect it. They say this could be cool, but at the end of the day, Dorg is shooting a wizard with a sling. Like she's got it on her band and she's looking badass, but that thing is just hurling pebbles at people, and we're like, wow, that's so cool. It's the right amount of this is stupid, but it just works. And I think that they nailed that, and that's because they loved it, and it's apparent that that's the case.
Yeah, all right. So in my notes here, I was going to ask you about a sequel, but you beat me to the punch.
Nailed it.
Got anything else to say?
If you haven't gone and seen it, I would recommend seeing it. I would recommend seeing it in theaters. This movie is genuinely a delight. If you couldn't tell by the 45-minute video this has become, but
now, what Sam? Some people haven't seen this on purpose. There's supposed to be some kind of a boycott or whatever. At least that was
oh,
what
I thought we
people
were
were
for that.
calling for. I don't know. I
Okay,
mean that's what people were talking about then. Oh, I'm not going to go see this movie. Now, there's one thing I want to say. Um, Hasbro or Wizards of the Coast capitulated. You know, we had demands. They tried to do something shady. You know, they got called out on it, and they completely capitulated. You know, they bent over, and what else do you want?
That's true. Well, so I will say this: there, no matter where and when you are, Hasbro, as the end of the day, and Wizards of the Coast are a giant money grubbing evil corporation, right? Like every giant super corp out there, they're going to do shady, crappy things to make a quick buck. It's going to happen. We have to accept that, right? You can still love this and engage with it in a way that you feel is responsible. I would agree with you, Bob, that I think them opening the SRD, the Creative Commons, I think them introducing the system to be, we want this to be more accessible because you've said this, we tried to make it not accessible, and that was obviously a bad idea. They've done a lot of PR work to try and make this say, we realize we made a mistake, we're going to work to make it better. Now, their books are still kind of crap for the most part. Some of them have been decent. I love Fizban's Treasury of Dragons again. I'm not a huge fan of Keys from the Golden City, but it's fine-ish from the little insights I've read about it. It's whatever. But like their content isn't necessarily improving all that much. At the end of the day, though, this movie is genuinely fantastic. It is a love letter to D&D. If you like D&D outside of the controversies of it, you can always pirate it. I would recommend that. I'm sorry, I would never recommend piracy. That's illegal. I would recommend finding a viewing option that is affordable to you.
I don't recommend that. I I need this movie to make money so that they're
It's
motivated to make more of these movies.
Bob, it is making no shortage of amount of money. This thing is doing exceptionally well right now. There will be
That's
sequels
good.
to this. And even
All right.
if there aren't like sequels to this exact movie, they're going to try again in 5 years anyway. You know that. Even if this bombed in 5 years, we get another one because they need to try and make money off of this IP.
What I don't necessarily know that that's a given. I mean, we like I said, this is the first time they've actually tried it in earnest to do a good job.
I don't know if they
So,
even tried in earnest to do a good job. I think they may have just got lucky with the producers, right? I think they got lucky with the people that did the script and stuff like that, and this turned out great. Because a lot of what happens, from my understanding, with the big companies, right, is they're assigning out diligence to be like, we want our IP to be bigger. We're going to produce a movie. They're the higher ups and executives making the decision of we are going to make a movie aren't actually making the physical movie, right? They are trusting other creatives to do that, and they're trusting other producers and things like that to do that. James Cameron, I'm not a big James Cameron fan. I think the most recent Avatar movies have been really bad, like astoundingly bad. But like he's a producer, creative director. He has all creative control of his films, and people would pay him to make a movie. That is the kind of the same deal here. They would find a person that's made movies and makes money off making movies, and that person would produce it. Whether or not it's good, it's entirely up to the creative team at that point, right? So I think it's somewhat of random happenstance that this turned out to be really, really good. And I don't think you should necessarily expect that like Hasbro's the reason this is great. I think a lot of the people that were involved in this really loved it, and that's the reason why this is great.
all right, well, I'm not saying Hasbro's the reason it's great, but I'm saying that like if this wasn't great and this lost them a bunch of money, I don't know if they'd be so gung ho to try again 5 years.
They really want to monetize this IP, Bob. Like
Oh,
they're
absolutely.
really desperate for it because Hasbro, as a corporation, from my understanding, again, could be wrong about this. They are doing so hot in like every other department that isn't Wizards of the Coast, and then Wizards of the Coast is like printing the money like no other. Like Magic the Gathering is just more and more product every year that's just spiking more and more income for them. They've got direct to sale to consumer products that are just churning out thousands and thousands of dollars. So like they want to figure out how to cash that in as best they can. That's why D&D is getting a VTT. That's why we're getting D&D 1. That's why we're like seeing Dungeons and Dragons on more and more things nowadays. Like this in Stranger Things, and it's in all that's in this, and it's in that, and it's everywhere. Yeah, they're monetizing the hell out of it. So
Do you think this movie will make a bunch of people who have never played before want to play?
I would hope so. If I've told everyone that has watched this movie that hasn't played before, if you want to know what the feeling of playing Dungeons and Dragons is, this movie is that feeling. In warts and all. I think Doric is my prime example of she's a character that is here that wants to do her own thing, and she doesn't really necessarily want part of the adventure, but she's tied it in just enough that she can go around on the adventure and have fun with it, and she does have fun with it, and everyone has fun, and it's a good movie for that reason, right? Every little element of it, of the stupid backstories of, yup, Holga's obsession with potatoes genuinely is a stupid character trait that I know dozens of players would come up with, right? I know people will be like, I really like potatoes and I always have potatoes. I'm going to chuck a potato at them. And that is just their part of their character dynamic. That's the cute little thing they attach to. And that is like, that is core to what Dungeons and Dragons is to feel like playing.
All right. Well, yes, whatever your reason for not having seen this movie yet, if you are even remotely interested, I highly recommend it.
I
Um,
do as well.
all you can get by not watching this movie is to deny yourself a pleasure. Yeah.
It's a great time.
So go see it. And and yeah, I guess we're wrapping things up. So go see the Dungeons and Dragons movie, and if you're watching this in the future, go see the Shingles movie. Shingles the movie, which has nothing to do with Dungeons and Dragons, but is partially based upon a book I wrote about a gnome who kills people and shits cocaine.
That sounds exactly Dungeons and Dragons to me, Bob.
Yes, it kind of does. Now that you mentioned it, yeah. All right. Well, that was our review for Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves.
Whatever
Thank
your
you,
thoughts,
Sam.
leave them in
Oh,
the comments. Let's plug for it, you know?
absolutely. I imagine you're going to have some opinions. Could be you have different opinions than ours.
Yeah.
Whatever they are, we'd love to hear them down in the comments. So that's that. And we'll thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.